This Valentine's Day is for the girls. I did not want to make a basic red date night dress this year. I wanted to make something a little more over the top and dramatic and artsy and fashion forward, and I just feel like only the girls are gonna get this one. So it's a little out of my comfort zone, but I'm gonna turn myself into a bouquet of roses, hopefully. So let me tell you about the plan. I have to say, I really thought I was cooking with this one. I thought that I came up with something super original and groundbreaking, and then I looked up rose dress or something like that, and it turns out that 7,000 people have had the exact same idea. So much so that you can probably get this from any fast fashion brand at this point. It's gonna look like crap and not fit you right, but this isn't anything groundbreaking. I thought it was though. Anyway, the idea is kind of an upside down bouquet. So the skirt is going to be covered in handmade satin roses. I found a couple different methods to create roses out of fabric. I don't really know which one will be best, so we'll do some experimenting with that. For the base, I'm just doing a basic mini skirt using Kiana Bonolo's mini dress pattern, and I just do the bottom part. I will go more into detail in this video on how I turn that pattern into just the bottom. Corsets that are just straight, they don't do me any favors. I need corsets, now I know, that have separate bust cups. So I've never tried this pattern before, but I'm gonna go with this one because it's long line, so it extends a little bit lower, and I feel like that'll make it look a little bit more like it's one continuous dress rather than two separate pieces. I'll have to assemble mine in a different way than how the pattern instructions are for this particular one. For a few reasons, I won't get into it, but I'm using the pattern shapes, not necessarily the pattern instructions. So, now that we're all on the same page, let's get started. Corsets are hard, and I have never actually been able to get one that fits and looks right on me. I would always buy a corset pattern. I'd make a mock-up, I'd put the mock-up on and go, this doesn't fit me. I don't know how to make it fit me. Maybe this just isn't the right pattern for me, and I'd buy another corset pattern. I have 12 corset patterns that I have bought in my Etsy purchases, and none of them fit me. Risky of me to continue trying to make this work, but guys, I finally figured it out, or I learned enough to keep going, basically. And I would like to learn what I shared in the last couple days of making 3 different mock-ups for this corset. Epiphany number 1, there's a difference between size and fit. Size is based off of just 3 measurements: bust, waist, hips. And you and I could have the same exact bust, waist, hip measurements and have totally different bodies. So size doesn't tell the whole story. I think one of the most important things that I have learned in the last couple days, and this is epiphany number 2, is the waist placement is probably the most important thing in terms of getting a good fit for corset. When I say waistline, I'm talking about the smallest part that is between the end of your rib cage and the beginning of your hips. So for me, my hip bone starts here. My last rib is here. I literally have like a half of an inch of waist, okay? That has to be where the smallest part of the garment hits, because what I have always had being the issue is that the waist of the mock-up would be an inch higher, let's say, and it would be hitting around my last 1 or 2 ribs. Because it's bone, it can't squish in. The garment would migrate down to where it could squish in. This is where it's soft. This is where it can reduce the size of your waist, and you can lace it up in the back. But that would cause a whole host of issues, because then it would throw off the hip size, and it would make the bust cups move down, and they're sort of collapsed. Once I figured out that I needed to move the waistline down, my second mock-up, kind of a lazy mock-up, I cut corners in terms of construction, but the fit is improved. I realized I needed a little bit more room around the hips. When you are reducing your waist, the squishy bits need to go somewhere and they're gonna go down usually. So I needed to give myself some room there. And what I did was I cut a vertical line to the waistline that I marked, and I flared these pieces out, and I did that for 4 of the pieces, the ones on the side to the back. So after making those changes, mock-up number 3 is probably not perfect to somebody who went to fashion school, but to me, it is the closest thing I've ever gotten to a corset that actually fits me. Again, there are certain things that, there's not boning in every single seam. I think once I add that, the wrinkling will go away and underwire, all those things. But at this point, I'm pretty freaking happy with it. And again, closest thing to success that I've ever gotten to. So let's start cutting all these pieces out. We gotta move. One thing I've learned the hard way is that when it comes to cutting out your pattern pieces, you can't eyeball the grain line. Especially for a corset, you have to make sure that the grain line arrow on your paper pattern is perfectly parallel to the selvage edge. And to do that, I just use my big ruler and I line it up with the selvage edge. And then I make sure that the grain line arrow of my pattern piece is perfectly straight, parallel to the selvage edge. This is not something that you should eyeball because it's probably going to be slightly skewed, and that is not going to offer the strength that a corset really needs. So take your time and make sure that all of your pattern pieces are cut accordingly. The shell and the interlining are done. Now, I'm having a hard time with this pattern. Instructions. I've already ironed out the kinks of the fit, like we talked about, but in terms of the assembly, the pattern is written by someone who's her first language isn't English, and she makes that clear right at the top of the page. So that's a factor, but also my reading comprehension's always been low. So I usually don't buy patterns unless they come with a video tutorial to go along with it because I'm gonna watch the video. This video though, it's English subtitles, so it's basically reading. So we're back at square one. Now, I took a glance at the pictures and noticed that the assembly was going to be different from how I would have to assemble it because so I can't do that. All this rambling to say, I don't know what to do next. In the planning process, I'm like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And then here I am stranded. I don't know what to do next. Yeah. Yes. Why wouldn't that work? I don't see why that wouldn't work. I genuinely can't figure out why that wouldn't work. What did I want to come on here and say? Okay, I think I'm just gonna I think I'm just gonna screw the lining. Just dropped a pin. I keep stepping on pins, that's not good. Look at this. I could just do this. Okay, wrong sides together. Yes, wrong sides together. And then sew boning channels, like just, why do I need separate boning channels? I don't think I do. I'm just gonna, I can do that. I can just align all of the seams and sew boning channels by sewing these 2 layers together, right? And then once I get to this back one, I can sew this, and then this one can be the only one with a boning channel. Why not? I don't see why not. Okay, I think we've made a decision. Boning is fully in. I am gonna go ahead and try to attach this twill tape, even though it's not really the correct time to do it. It's a little late. I need my pins. Yeah, it's a little late to be doing this, but I don't know. My idea was that like it might not actually help that much now that I already sewed the boning channels in, and this really should have been put between these two layers. But it probably isn't going to hurt. So like why not do it, you know? I think ideally it should only be sewn to the white layer and not through all the way to the fashion layer, because I think those little extra stitches you'd be able to see, and also I don't want extra tension to be put on the fashion layer. So I think I'm gonna go through by hand and sew it on. This is being done before I add the like grommet panel, so this raw edge of the waist tape will be concealed in this boning channel. Before doing the bust cups, I need to finish off this top edge with some bias binding. And before I do that, I need to take care of this raw seam from attaching the center back panels. I have made a handful of patterns with separate bust cut pieces, and if there is anything that I've learned, it is that what makes or breaks the shape of these is the ironing process. Obviously, the way that the pattern pieces are cut out, their shapes sort of set the foundation, but what solidifies everything is pressing. So to do this, you'd want to use something called a round pressing ham, or a tailor's ham, which I have, and I cannot find it. I wasted a lot of time looking for it. My sewing room is really a mess right now. I can't find half of my tools. What works in a pinch is an old bra. Don't use one that you like or actually wear, because they're not made to be ironed. But I pin it on there because you want to let it dry. Once you steam the heck out of it, you want to leave it in that domed shape as it dries and cools, because that'll really lock in the round shape. So just use as much steam as your fabric can take, maybe a little bit more if you're impatient like me. And then I leave it on here for like 10 minutes, let it cool off, and you'll have like a very nice, this one's already steamed and it looks great, holds its shape really well, and I'm pretty happy with that. So that's what I'm doing now. Inserting bust cups is something that's pretty challenging, and I'm not perfect at it, but a couple things have really helped me in the past. And the first is to line up the center seam of the bust cup with the seam on the bodice and pin that in place. And then the next two anchor points are going to be lining up the cup with the center and then the side. Once those 3 pins are in place, you're basically going to slowly ease the cup into the hole. It just takes a lot of repositioning and repinning and moving things around and easing fabric until you get everything lined up nicely. And then I prefer to baste it in to start. This allows me to get the cup in and double check that I have aligned everything perfectly. And if I have, I then go in with a shorter stitch length and lock everything into place. The key is to go slow, keep your seam allowance consistent, and this is how it looks. Not perfect. My bust cups weren't identical in the end, unfortunately, but guys, I have attempted a very similar design with multiple different patterns over and over and over again, and I've never gotten this far. And I'm like, I'm actually like doing it good. You know what I mean? I'm just feeling very proud of myself. I feel like my sewing skills have progressed. Finally? I don't know, I'm feeling kind of giddy about this one. The inside though, let me show you the inside. Crazy, right? That needs to be covered by underwire channeling. This basically is a home for the bra underwire, but it also will cover all of this foam and the raw edge of everything, the seam allowance basically. Now, I have only done this one time. I remember it being tricky, so I'm not the person to learn when it comes to this particular step, and probably all of the other steps, you guys know I'm still learning, but it is really satisfying once you get this done. We're so close. Okay, let's get these finishing touches done. I threw together a very simple, basic mini skirt using a pattern I've adapted. For this one, I added a facing instead of a lining. And it's just a very simple, straightforward pattern. I will link that video here if you want more detail on how this is constructed, because it's a dress pattern. It's not technically for a skirt, but it works great for a skirt with just a few tweaks. I gotta be honest, I'm really second guessing adding roses to the skirt, because I tried this on skirt. I have to hem it still, but I tried it on with the corset. It's so cute. And like, I just feel like I could pull off wearing that to some event without the flowers. If I add the fabric roses, I do feel like it makes it too niche to wear to anything but a Valentine's Day dinner. And yet I feel like I can't abandon that idea, because that's the whole inspiration. This was inspired by a bouquet of red roses, so like I can't dump the red rose idea. Although there is a kind of rose motif on this. I don't know. Is it too basic to... I'm gonna do it. Obviously I'm gonna do it, but low-key might take the roses off so that I have something that's a little bit more wearable, because the set is really cute. Okay, anyway, I have found a lot of different sort of fabric rose tutorials, and I've settled on this one. I'll link it below. I definitely need more fabric. According to my measurements, I'll be able to get 13 out of this. I'm talking too much. Let's try to get this. Let's see if this even works actually first, because I don't know if it's gonna work. I followed the tutorial exactly, and I have this weird... It just looks wrong the entire time, so hopefully this will get me something good. It really should. And now I have to pull, so no backstitching, because we're going to gather it. This is really making me not want to do this. This is going to be a lot of work. Okay, I think that's sufficiently gathered. And I'm gonna I'll start from the ugly side, so the ugly side is like concealed. So we just kind of roll it and then keep the sewn edge at the bottom so that that's not poking or showing up at all. Bro, and then I have to sew it at the bottom, I think. I have to tack it. Enough light. That doesn't look as good as hers does. Do I want to do this? It's the next day. Between yesterday afternoon and this morning, I've spent 6 hours doing this, and I've only made 11 of these. This takes way more time, way more fabric than I anticipated. According to my calculations, I need like 120 of these to cover the entire skirt. And 1 yard of fabric makes 12 to 13. So, considering that I spent way longer on the fit of the corset than I anticipated, which I don't regret at all, I'm really super happy that I finally made a corset that fits me even a little bit. So, I don't think that was time wasted, but I am running out of time at this point. I do not have time to make 110 more of these. Unfortunately. The thing is though, I like the skirt plain, which I didn't anticipate. I wanted this to be super fun and more artsy and experimental, like totally fine if it feels a little costumey, which goes against my nature typically. But I don't know, the corset and the plain skirt together, I just really do like, and I feel like adding, I don't know. I feel like if I don't cover the entire skirt in these, it's like the intro was false advertisement. My problem is I haven't been sewing long enough to accurately estimate the timeline of how long things take, and in the planning stage, I'm super gung-ho and I'm delusional with my planning and what I expect of myself with my skill level. And then once I'm actually doing it, I realize the size of the scope only once I'm actually doing it. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I feel a little like I'm falling short. So, I'm gonna do what I can with the roses that I've already made and try not to be disappointed in myself, I guess. Okay.